Princess Visa, a fairy tale in the land of finance. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, there lived a poor maiden named Visa. Visa's eyes were like shimmering pools of pond water, her lips were like cherry licorice, and her overprocessed hair was the pallor of pale straw. Unlike other princesses, however, Visa didn't live in a castle or come from a prominent family. Instead, she lived on a shoestring budget in a run-down Montreal apartment off of Dante Street, a chunk of real estate belonging to her evil stepfather, Bill. Despite Visa's humble origins, she was blessed one day with special powers that came to her through a magical piece of plastic which she received in an unsolicited mailing. The envelope, addressed to Princess Visa, contained an enclosure that read as follows: "Deny yourself no earthly pleasure. The charmed beholder of this card is entitled to live like royalty. Treat yourself like a princess today. Some restrictions may apply, and the holder of this card is hereby obligated to pay Bill." "I was born to shop," exclaimed Visa one balmy summer afternoon, as her large stilettos pounded the Montreal pavement. Overjoyed by the sweet fragrance of yellow roses and the din of pigeons squawking, Visa clicked and shuffled on her merry way. Her new life of conspicuous consumption had become so gratifying to her that she was unprepared for the fate that was about to befall her. Obliviously, she snapped her gum and reapplied her lip gloss. While visiting a market in Little Italy, Visa set her heart upon a fancy cappuccino machine with brass handles and a menagerie of mysterious dials. As she brushed a manicured hand over its polished surface, fantasizing about lattes, frothing cappuccinos, and steaming espresso macchiatos, she could almost feel the caffeine buzz. "Ah, coffee, glorious coffee," she crooned. It was at that unexpected moment that Cashman walked into her life. "Bonjour," Cashman uttered as he brushed meekly past her, fluffing the back of his mullet with the casual flip of his rugged hand. Visa tugged on her black leather skirt, mussed up her hair, and scrutinized her reflection in the shop window. "I think I'm in love," she sighed, redirecting her gaze towards Cashman. Cashman was unlike any other man that Visa had ever seen. Tall and hulking, his muscles were as big as bowling balls. Dressed in a pink polo with the collar flipped up, he looked like $1,000,000. Visa's heart palpitated wildly, secretly pleased with the way his curly chest hair poked through the collar of his shirt. "Hello," Visa murmured, nearly speechless at the sight of this imposing man with a tawny mullet. It was love at first sight, as Cashman lumbered around the store, talking to himself in earnest as he searched in vain for the men's room. As the cashier rang up Visa's purchase, she tossed her bleach locks, swiped her extraordinary card, and locked eyes with Cashman, only moments before he headed toward the exit. As they silently held each other's gaze, something unexpected happened. To Visa's dismay, the cashier informed her that the mystical card had run out of spending power and would have to be confiscated. Overwhelmed by a feeling of profound loss, Visa wept a trickling trail of blue mascara down her cheeks. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she choked. Upon hearing the tragic news, Cashman, a gent of considerable hair and great wealth, stuffed one well-tanned hand into a bulging pocket and produced an impressive wad of cash. "Don't cry, madame. Please allow me," he gestured, offering to buy the extravagant machine for the lovely lady. Visa, having been rescued by this heroic gent, adjusted her tiara, politely accepted and invited the dashing Cashman to her apartment for a café au lait. Cashman contemplated to himself, "I love this woman and I hope to marry her, but what I really need to do right now is find a bathroom. I just hope that her apartment's close by, because I've really got to go." As the love-struck pair quickly ambled the block back to Visa's apartment, they noticed a moving van parked outside. To Visa's horror, she recognized the van as belonging to her father's henchmen, the 7 cronies. His repayment long overdue, according to his evil plan, Bill had instructed his men to repossess Visa's furniture and bring it to his store. Visa was on the verge of tears as she watched her cheetah couch and pink flamingo lawn ornaments disappear inside the van. Sensing her alarm, Cashman offered her his hand in marriage and suggested that they go up and try out the cappuccino machine right away. Overwhelmed with emotion and a craving for coffee, she forgot about the furniture and embraced Cashman, causing him to wince. "Let's go up," he pleaded, desperate to use the restroom. Little did the pair know, but there were unforeseen forces at work. Visa's evil stepfather wasn't satisfied that he'd confiscated Visa's couch, bed, and impressive shoe collection. He wouldn't rest until Visa was wasting away in a debtor's prison. For the magical card hadn't been magical at all. In fact, he'd sent it to Visa in an evil plot to give her a false sense of wealth, as she racked up debt after debt. The card hadn't actually paid for any of the things that Visa had taken home. It had simply postponed the payments and tacked on considerable interest to the principal, amassing thousands of dollars of debt in Visa's name. When Bill learned that the dashing Cashman had entered Visa's life, he grew fearful. "What will I do if Cashman bails Visa out of her spending fiasco?" he pondered. "I must stop this meddlesome mullet man." That evening, after a pleasant afternoon sipping coffee with Cashman, Visa hoisted her cappuccino machine, shuffled to her stepfather's apartment above the pawn shop, and asked if she could sleep on her couch. Bill, experiencing a twinge of guilt, reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Visa foolishly babbled to her stepfather about her plans to marry the brawny Cashman. Bill became enraged. "Princess Visa, you'll never marry Cashman. I own you. You owe me piles of pennies. You'll remain my prisoner here until you can find a way to pay what you owe." Seizing the shiny new coffee maker, Bill locked Visa up in his attic, hastily brewed a fresh pot of coffee for himself, and tried on Visa's furry slippers. Cashman, having a real espresso craving and needing to use the restroom again, walked up to Visa's empty apartment with a 2-carat diamond engagement ring in one hand, a bouquet of roses in the other, only to discover that his beloved was missing. "Now where can she be?" Cashman whimpered. After several days passed, Cashman grew lonelier and sadder, afraid that his princess had forsaken him for another. Visa, who was holed up in her stepfather's attic, grew increasingly moody as her caffeine cravings grew stronger with each passing day. Cashman, his face tear-stained and his bladder nearly bursting, stopped by the local pawn shop one afternoon to use the men's room and to find a potential buyer for the useless engagement ring. While there, he recognized Visa's furniture. "Hey, that's Visa's couch. That's the cappuccino machine that I bought for her. And you're wearing her slippers. I demand to know what's going on here." But nature's call was too strong for Cashman to ignore, and he quickly ducked into the men's room. No sooner than the restroom door had clicked shut, Bill moved Visa's couch to block Cashman's exit. Feeling quite pleased with himself, Bill fluffed up a plush cushion and sat down to enjoy a steaming mochaccino, the couch groaning under his girth. Sensing that he'd been double-crossed, Cashman wailed to be let out. "Let me out! I know that you've got her here because the smell of espresso's all over this joint." Visa, smelling the coffee and hearing the furor down below, jumped up and down and pounded on her door. Her caffeine craving, strengthened by her love for Cashman, had grown so strong that she pushed down the bars, descended the stairs, and downed the remaining espresso. Frenzied, Visa stepped on Bill's foot, pushed away the couch, and set her beloved free. Having freed the mighty Cashman, Visa squealed, "I love you," and leapt into his waiting arms. "Not so fast," Bill hissed. "You owe me money, Visa, mounds of money. You aren't going anywhere till you pay off your debts with interest." Cautiously, Cashman rubbed the whiskers on his chin with his right hand and pawed a box containing Visa's engagement ring with his left. As a gesture of his everlasting love, he offered the token to Bill. At the sight of the glistening jewel, Bill was overcome with emotion. "You shouldn't have," he gushed. At first, Visa was confused, but she soon understood that Cashman was offering the ring as payment for her months of careless spending. Bill, so deeply moved by this generous gift, accepted the diamond ring in full payment, and as a token of his goodwill, he offered to return Visa's furniture and most of her shoe collection. Having learned the dangers of easy credit, Princess Visa vowed to put away the plastic forever. In return, Cashman, wealthy beyond imagination, agreed to buy her anything her heart desired. Both Cashman and Princess Visa lived happily ever after, sharing espressos, cappuccinos, and frothing cafe lattes until the end of their days. The moral of the story is only a hulking Cashman can pay off Visa's enormous bill.